What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. The road to predict all 136 FBS level college football teams this summer. Now in one of the most exciting places and venues in college football. It's Blacksburg, Virginia, where we're going to talk about the Virginia Tech Hokies out of the ACC in a year where this group is going to look to try to take a step forward in ACC competition. My name is Nate Bope, otherwise known as Tailgate Nate. I want to thank you all so much for clicking on this video and for helping to support the channel. If you'd like to support it even further, then please do what it says right below me. Hit that subscribe button, and while you're at it, you might as well ring the bell, because turning on notifications will ensure that you don't miss an upload, and especially not one during your favorite season and for your favorite team. I am delving into the sports media professional industry, and I just started my new job not too long ago. If you want to see all the cool stuff I get to do while still be up to date, what goes on this very YouTube channel, please give me a follow at the social media down below. It's at TailgateNate29 on Twitter or X, whatever your preference to call the platform, and on Instagram. Feel free to even email me. It's tailgatenate29@gmail.com. I want to thank you all so much for supporting and interacting with me or the channel, however you may be doing so. And with all that said and done and out of the way, I give you the team whose logo sits right behind me, the Hokies from Virginia Tech, and your head coach, Brent Pry. This is the program that feels like they're building. Could this be the year that Brent Pry's Virginia Tech Hokies explode? They already could be an ACC sleeper this season. Is this the year, the breakthrough year for Virginia Tech? Well, you're going to find out what I think throughout this video, but let me tell you how we preview teams. We are first going to go through a roster overview in which the offense will be right on over here to the left, and the defense going to be right on over here to the right. At the end of the video, we'll go through the Hokie football schedule. I'll go ahead and give it a game-by-game preview and prediction, and this video overall is going to tell all you fine viewers what I think about the Hokies here in 2025. Before we do get started, though, some numbers I want to make you aware of right below me. They are returning production numbers. According to ESPN, shows you the returning production, obviously, that comes back from this team last year, and it does factor in transfer portal additions up to a certain percentage, and then right below that are your recruiting and transfer portal ranks. They are according to 24/7 Sports. Philip Montgomery is your offensive coordinator now for the Virginia Tech Hokies, and we move on to talking about his offense. Kyron Drones going to be coming back to playing quarterback, much like he was for the majority of last season. There were about 110 or so other passes thrown by people not named Kyron Drones, but 224 of them were 1,562 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. He's a dual threat guy, had 336 yards and 6 touchdowns on the ground last season. Again, those numbers not necessarily going to blow you away, but he did flash a lot of good potential last season. In order for this Virginia Tech team to take that next step and explode, like I was kind of teasing in the preview earlier, Kyron Drones has got to take that next step and explode. And I think not necessarily have a monster season. I don't think he's got to have like 3,500 yards, 1,500 yards rushing or anything crazy like that. But I think he's got to be a really, really good player for this Virginia Tech team. And he's got to take his game up a notch from what we've seen it last season. We did see some flashes, but that leap has got to happen for a full, consistent season as, again, Kyron Drones enters as the full primary starter yet again for the Hokies this season. You are going to be losing an 11-yard rusher in Bashal Tutin, who is going to be gone off of last year's team. He is over with now the Jacksonville Jaguars, 1,159 yards and 15 touchdowns for Bashal Tutin last season. Really, really good running back that is going to be leaving this room, and that's a big hit for this Hokie offense that relied on him quite a bit. Almost 200 carries for Tutin last year. You are going to be getting some portal pieces, and now it's spelled correctly. There are a lot of portal pieces that are entering this backfield for Virginia Tech this season. Most notably is Terrion Stewart. He is coming over from Bowling Green, where he had quite the monster career with the Falcons in the Mid-American Conference. Last season, 898 yards and 6 touchdowns, and the season before that, 762 yards and 8 touchdowns. Career average sitting right at around 5.6, 5.7, maybe even a little above that yards per carry. Really, really good running back that is absolutely deserving of playing at the Power 4 level, and I think he's going to make a really big impact. He is a 1,000-yard potential back, and even though he has not reached that yet, I think the potential is there for Terrion Stewart to do that. You also are going to be getting Braden Bennett, Marcellus Hawkins. They all come in through the transfer portal. Marcellus Hawkins is coming over from Central Missouri. That is a Division II school has a really good athletic program, especially in football. And Braden Bennett's over from Coastal Carolina, where he rushed for double-digit touchdowns, almost 800 yards last season. You got a ton of guys that you can rely on in this offensive backfield, and I think the running back stable is going to be a real good one for the Virginia Tech Hokies. Again, Kyron Drones has got to take a step forward, especially with his passing game, get more yards, increase his completion percentage, touchdown interception ratio, yada, 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 all of that fine stuff. This can very well be a team that can rely on their run game, and their run game can win them a lot of games this year because I think the backfield is very deep. They got a lot of really good pieces, as I just listed off earlier. Your top 4 wideouts all exit. Another reason why you could see this team, especially early on, rely on their run game. Now, you do have a lot of good wide receiver pieces that are still here. Aiden Green is going to be one of, if not probably your best returning threat for Virginia Tech this season. 268 yards and a pair of touchdowns for him last year. But a pair of transfers in Donovan Green and Cameron Seldon are probably going to end up being, I would assume, the 2 main guys. It wouldn't surprise me if Aiden Green got into that top 2 mix, but I think these 2 guys, Green and Seldon, going to be your 2 names. 118 yards and a touchdown for I believe the Seldon. Yes, Seldon at Tennessee. And then as far as Donovan Green goes, a guy that I really like a lot out of Wake Forest, 380 yards and 5 touchdowns. Or no, sorry, I just misread that number entirely. 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns with the Demon Deacons last season. So again, Aiden Green, pair him with Donovan Green and Cameron Seldon. I think you have a solid enough wide receiver room. I do think your running back room is better, and it could be relied upon as such. Your tight end duo, led by Benji Gosnell, are both coming back as well. Benji Gosnell, really good weapon for this offense last season, 341 yards and a pair of touchdowns. And then Harrison St. Germain, that was the other part of the tight end duo last season. He also comes back, both of them redshirt juniors. Both of them will see good playing time in 2025. You do have some transfers and graduation leaving this offensive line unit. It's going to be an all-new starting group for the Hokies here in 2025. A lot of transfers entering in. In fact, 3 of them, by my count, at least according to ourlads.com, that are going to play significant time or even better start for you. There, again, are some other transfers that enter this room, but 3 of them in Thomas Rymack, Kyle Altuner, and Lucas Austin, probably going to play your biggest roles up there. It's a good mix of youth and vets. Again, a lot of youth actually coming in through the portal as Altuner and Austin, both redshirt freshmen, and Lath Ghanem. Hopefully I'm saying that name right. Redshirt sophomore that returns to this team. And then again, the other 2 positions filled by upperclassmen. So it'll be a really interesting offensive line to watch. It did allow 35 sacks last year. That's a number you have absolutely got to get better but the talent is there. Again, Kyron Drones has got to take that step. I think the talent is there. Wide receiver, pass catching room is maybe not as good as some of the others in the conference, but it generally is pretty solid. I really like this running back room, though. I love what Brent Pry and Philip Montgomery have built in the backfield. Let's switch it on over to the defensive side. Sam Sefkis. Hopefully I've said that last name right. If not, feel free to correct me. I'll take the heat for it. Sefkis last held a DC position at Wofford. I believe that was back in 2021, and I'll fact check myself on that here right now. Built some pretty good defenses with the Terriers there. Excuse the mouse, sorry. But his football IQ and just overall his pure coaching ability is what guys, and especially Brent Pry, have absolutely raved about. This guy is very, very smart. He knows the game well. He can coach absolutely outstandingly. And sorry, it was 2020 where he last held the DC position, so I was only off by 1 year. He does also bring NFL experience into this group with the Minnesota Vikings and the Arizona Cardinals, specifically as a linebacker coach. So he brings in some really, really good experience. Again, gets a lot of high praise. We'll see what his defense looks like here with the Hokies this upcoming season. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the talent that is going to be leaving and coming back, as well as entering this unit. Antoine Powell-Ryland. He is gone. An absolute sack machine. 43 tackles, and yes, this number is real, 6 sacks. One of the best defensive linemen in the country as far as producing sacks last season. And it is, you can't overstate. No one on this Virginia Tech team, in fact, maybe no one else around the country this year, is going to get 16 sacks. That's just a massive loss, as well as a lot of excellent depth pieces are going to be leaving this team. There still are some good pieces that do return, however, especially that of Kelvin Gilliam on the defensive front, but a lot of it's going to be built up by transfers, including these three guys: Ben Bell, Arias Nash, and James Jonkman. Those are all guys going to be coming in. You did have a 57 tackle, 10 sack season out of Ben Bell over in 2023, and he can absolutely get back to that production this upcoming season. Again, plenty of good pieces return, plenty of transfers. They're going to see big minutes. But again, when you lose a guy at Antwell Powell-Ryland, I think there are guys here that are capable of producing a lot of sacks. Probably not as many as 16. That's a little bit of a crazy ask, but you still do have a lot of good talent in the defensive front. Keonta Jenkins is off to Buffalo out of the linebacking unit. And no, not the Buffalo Bulls, the Buffalo Bills in the NFL. Really, really good player that had 65 tackles and a sack last season. Really, really good linebacker. Hey, he was even able to pick off a pass last season. Two lead tacklers do return, however. They are going to be the two names as follows. Caleb Woodson had 72 tackles last season, and then Jaden Keller had 83, and those were your two leading tacklers last season. They'll be your two leading linebackers again this year, and they got plenty of experience in the linebacking group. Caleb Spencer is another guy that comes back. Jordan Bass is an experienced transfer that comes in as a true junior over from Pitt. Your linebacking unit, again, Sam Sefkis, even knowing his specialty as a linebacking unit, I think he's rubbing his hands together maniacally. This is going to be a very exciting linebacker group to coach, and it could be overall one of the better units that we see across the country. Your secondary was shredded by the portal and the NFL. Lots of really, really talented guys are going to be gone off this team. Mansour Delane is going to be gone. You're also going to be losing another really big piece in, Jalen Jones. I couldn't remember the first name for a second. Knew the last name was Jones. But both of the Mansour Delane off through the transfer portal, and Jones is off to the NFL's Los Angeles Chargers. Those are probably your two biggest pieces in each level of the secondary, Delane being that corner and Jones being that safety. Now, there is still some okay talent that does come back, Quentin Reddish and Dante Lovett, but a ton of transfers are going to have to step in and play some really big roles for you this season. Brown Murray, not Murray Brown, Isaiah Brown Murray is transferring in here over from East Carolina, where he had a tremendous season with the Pirates last year. Isaiah Cash is transferring over, Christian Ellis, and some other names in there as well. Let's show love to the kickers. John Love is going to return as the primary place kicker, and a new punter, and John Veltsistas is going to take over. Apologies if that's a mispronunciation. That's probably a really tricky one to try to pronounce for a lot of Hokie fans, I'm sure. Kyron Drones got to take the next step offensively. I've hammered that home. Sefkis, we'll see what his defense is going to look like. I think it's going to be a really, really exciting front seven to watch. Secondary, big key position, big key group overall for Virginia Tech this upcoming season. Now let's take a look at that schedule. And without any further introduction, here is the 2025 Virginia Tech football schedule. And okay, I kind of lied. Let's do some more introduction by looking at the odds courtesy of FanDuel right down below me. Again, not telling you to go place your money. They are current as of recording this video. Odds market, of course, always changes. Just provide some good context for how good the odds makers think the Hokies are going to be this season. Plus 4,900 odds, pretty long odds to win the conference. Yeah, a lot's got to go right. They really got to have everyone playing at the highest level possible for them to win a national championship this year. And then 6.5 is that over/under win total. We'll go ahead and tell you what I think here, but I think it's going to be a struggle to start out the season. Not because I think Virginia Tech is going to struggle in the way that they play, but I do think, too, that while they're trying to fill in some pieces with the secondary, you got a couple of teams out of the SEC, I think, that are going to give you some real fits to kick off the season. And South Carolina is going to be one of the better ones on the schedule for Virginia Tech this year. Lenora Sellers can absolutely take advantage of a lot of the pieces that Virginia Tech is going to have to replace in this secondary. And while Kyron Drones and the offense are starting to get their feel, probably going to rely a little bit more on that run game. South Carolina's got some dogs led by, I want to say it's Dylan Stewart. And it is Dylan Stewart. I, again, don't know why I question myself on that. But the young freshman last year was sensational, and South Carolina's got a ton of really good defensive linemen that I think are going to be able to contain Kyron Drones, be able to slow down this run game, and Lenora Sellers is explosive and dynamic offensively. South Carolina's going to be a really good team. Neutral site one though should be a fun one to watch. Excited to see how the Hokies look. I don't think they're going to beat the South Carolina Gamecocks though. I believe they're going to be playing in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. You do get your first home game of the season against the Vanderbilt Commodores, and this is another one where I feel like Virginia Tech is going to have a little bit of struggles. Look, Vandy, that was a team that surprised pretty much everybody last season. Of course, pulled off the upset against Bama, and Diego Pavia really emerged onto the scene last year. There are games where he put the team on his back and just would not let them lose. The Alabama game was a big example of that. You still have some really good talent in this wide receiver room. Eli Stowers is a graduate tight end, going to play a pretty big role. The defense, I think, should, or maybe not should, but they can see some improvement this upcoming season. Overall, man, Diego Pavia, I think, is just a gamer. And again, while Virginia Tech breaks in a lot of new pieces, sees what they fully have with their offensive, defensive coordinators, things of such, I also do think Vanderbilt's going to be a really tough out for a lot of teams this year. No more can you look at Vanderbilt in the SEC and say, yep, that's a win. You can't do that anymore. And Diego Pavia, being a gamer, is a massive reason why. I think Vanderbilt's going to be able to win that game. And Virginia Tech starts off the season 0-2. So some slow going for the Hokies already, but I think they're going to pretty easily get to 2-2 here. Old Dominion does lose some good talent, and I don't see them pulling off an upset like they have done against Virginia Tech in the past. And then, wouldn't you know it, Sam Sefkis is going to be playing against his former team, where he was last a defensive coordinator with Wofford at the FCS ranks. That defense will be pretty darn solid here in this game. And I think those two latter ones there in the first third of the season, Old Dominion and Wofford, going to be where Virginia Tech really starts to figure things out before you get on into a road game against NC State. NC State was quite the roller coaster last season, and it really hinged on the fact that it was a defense that just wasn't as aggressive and didn't have the punch factor that we're used to seeing out of Dave Doeren-led groups. I think this one is going to come back to it. You brought in a ton, or maybe not a ton, but some really, really good transfers, especially in that front seven, especially in that linebacking unit. Tra Thomas, Sion Sloan, even when you move into the defensive front, Sebastian Harsh back in the linebacker room, Kenny Stores, AJ Richardson. There are a lot of really good transfers here for NC State, and I think that defense going to hit hard. CJ Bailey, I think, breaks into the quarterback position fairly well. He's got a lot of talent surrounding him offensively. I don't think it's going to matter. I do think that Virginia Tech is going to be able to win this one on the road. Again, NC State with that roller coaster last season, this very well could be a down game. However, Virginia Tech going on the road, playing it in this one, we'll see, right? But I think the dual threat ability of Kyron Drones is really what helps Virginia Tech. Sometimes Nate likes to pull a fast one on you. I was talking like I thought NC State was going to win the game. Nope. Virginia Tech, I do think, is the better overall team, especially if Kyron Drones plays up to potential. I think he can give this NC State defense a whole lot of qualms because NC State did have trouble against quarterbacks that could spread it out and get going with their legs last season. So Virginia Tech, I think, wins that one there on the road, and they should be able to win this one against Wake Forest as well. Wake Forest, a team, again, losing a lot of pieces, some here to this Virginia Tech Hokie team. New head coach coming in this year, I do believe. It's going to be a work in progress for Wake Forest to try to climb the ranks of the ACC. You get to go on the road and play the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets coming up next. And this is where I do think Virginia Tech is, again, playing a team that is more talented than them, probably for the first time since they've played South Carolina. You can make that argument for Vanderbilt, but I'll go for certainty. This is the first team that, again, I really feel like, besides South Carolina, this is the first team that I feel like, again, I'll say it again, is more talented than Virginia Tech. Georgia Tech has got Haynes King coming back. Jamal Hangs is going to be returning. And even though Eric Singleton is gone, Malik Rutherford is a great guy coming in. Eric Rivers is a phenomenal transfer that comes in here to this program. The defense bulks up, especially on that defensive front through the transfer portal. And you have a ton of experienced returning talent in that back seven. One of the better linebackers we have in the country in Kyle Efford. Some really good secondary pieces. I think overall, Georgia Tech going to be a really tough out for a lot of teams this season. Yellow Jackets are going to win a lot of football games, and the two Techs here in the ACC duking it out. I think Virginia Tech has got some ways to keep this thing close, but I just think the power, the effort, the physicality of Georgia Tech will be too much. Even though Virginia Tech can play the exact same way, I think Georgia Tech does it better than what Virginia Tech does, and thusly the Yellow Jackets win that one before the Hokies finally get their first bye week. And you got some really interesting games coming up here at home against California. Without Fernando Mendoza, I see this Cal offense taking a step back. They also don't have Jaden Ott back there in that backfield. A lot of good wide receiver pieces. Cal's going to need a retool offensively. The defense is going to need some work to take a step in the right direction. And Virginia Tech should be able to get back on track here. I do have this as a win against Cal. However, then you got this game against the Louisville Cardinals. And while Louisville has got to watch out, this definitely is a tough place to play here in Blacksburg, especially with Enter Sandman, just one of the best traditions. It gives me goosebumps every time. I really like Miller Moss coming in to play quarterback. He's got a ton of really good weapons. Chris Bell, Colin Lacey. You paired Dakari Collins, a former NC State wide receiver with them. I think that makes for a really good 1-2-3 punch in the wide receiver room. And with Miller Moss as your quarterback, showed some good flashes. He does that over consistent season. I think Louisville's going to be really good. Defense bulked up in talent, especially on that back end. I really like what the Louisville Cardinals are doing this season. Love what they've done through the portal, and I absolutely love their head coach in Jeff Brom. I think he does a phenomenal job, and I think Louisville has a pretty darn phenomenal season, or at the very least, a pretty darn good season. I do think they come in the Blacksburg, they get the win, and Virginia Tech suffers their fourth loss of the season. I also do believe they lose this one on the road at Florida State. And guys, Florida State is not, there is no way that they have as disastrous of a season as they did last year. Now, if Tommy Castellanos doesn't work out, if there are some other things that don't pan out, Florida State can definitely have a poor season. Florida State does have a pretty nice transfer portal class that is coming in here. And again, they're just not going to have as poor of a season unless everything goes wrong again, which I just don't see it happening. Now, is Florida State going to have a super upbeat, spectacular season like they did in 2023? Probably not. There's a lot that's probably going to have to go right, and a lot of pieces are going to have to fit into place pretty seamlessly there for Mike Norvell's group. However, with Squirrel White coming in, with Deuce Robinson, with Tommy Castellanos, with some really good pieces in the running back room, you bulked up on the defensive front through the transfer portal, and the secondary still has got a lot of really nice pieces. I think Florida State's going to be a competitive team in the ACC this year, and they get the win at home against Virginia Tech. All right, so at this point, Virginia Tech is sitting at 5-5. I'm going to tell you right now, I think they beat Virginia because Virginia's losing a lot of talent, and you just feel like, again, much like this Virginia Tech group, when's the year that we're finally going to see the breakout for the Cavaliers? When are they finally going to take that next step? It feels like they've been there for so long. I think it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for Virginia this season to try to find that groove in order to do that. So I do believe Virginia Tech beats Virginia. I think the 6-win or the 7-win season, maybe even possibly an 8-win season, if they can get by Vanderbilt, upset Louisville at home, just win one more game. I think it hinges on this game against the Miami Hurricanes right here. And I got to tell you, Blacksburg is a really tough place to play. Vanderbilt could absolutely fall victim to it. Louisville could absolutely fall victim to it. There's one team at least that's going to this year, and I think it's Miami. Carson Beck, I think, is going to get back to 2023 form, but he showed last year he's very vulnerable with throwing the interception bug. It could plague him in this one. And Miami loses in Blacksburg. I already told you they will beat Virginia as well, on top of Miami just trying to replace a lot of pieces. And although I think the defensive front for the Canes can give the Hokies some trouble, I think Blacksburg gets the better of Miami late in the season. 7-5. What I got for Virginia Tech here. Again, I think it's going to take a little bit, pull off some upsets for them to take that big next step, but I think they are well on their way to starting to climb their ranks in the ACC. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.